Mobile One. This video was made possible by Pennzoil. I had the opportunity to attend the Bank of America 500 race in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is a really great opportunity, especially with Pennzoil and Team Penske, because that's where their home base of operations is located. I was able to tour the facility and learn all kinds of cool stuff about IndyCar racing as well as stock car racing. NASCAR is the race that we were attending, and as you may know, NASCAR stands for National Association for Stock Car Automotive Racing. I was able to get up close and personal with a bunch of these different stock cars and look at the brake rotors, look at the frame, look at all these different things from, last year, a couple years ago.
Precision, the less weight on the top of a car, the better, right?
These are all of our Indy 500 wins, all 16 of them, and it's kind of cool to see like the evolution from the very beginning to the very last helmet. Cool to see, actually.
Alright, so we've covered some of the easy fun stuff, trophies and wins, things people like to talk about. We've got some tough questions for you now about formulation and Pennzoil technology.
Oh, you're asking the wrong
What do you have to say about that?
I say I can get you a person.
That's what I'm here for.
I'll grab him. How about he can help me? He can whisper in my ear and then I'll tell you.
We'll be with Travis tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oil does a lot of different things. In your car or a NASCAR, it's used as a lubricant or friction modifier, friction reduction agent. It's a hydraulic fluid. It's used in hydraulic lifters, whether it's a pushrod engine or in hydraulic timing advance in a overhead cam configuration, like on a STI or something. It's used as a shock absorber to keep metal components from hitting each other, and it's also used as a coolant. And this is key, especially in NASCAR and especially with Pennzoil Platinum with Pure Plus technology. That Pure Plus technology does an incredible job at staying together at high temperatures. Now, NASCAR race is a 500-mile race. It's an endurance to be able to run 9,000 RPM in a pushrod engine. Those valve springs, I learned, they cycle about 75 times per second at 9,000 RPMs. That generates a lot of heat, and oil is actually used to cool those back down, as well as it's shot up into the bottom of the piston to cool the piston top or the piston center down. We're going to go to Travis Geisler. He's the go-to guy when you got oil questions, and he's going to talk about how they get Aeroperformance from engine oil. One rainy day later.
So the oil is serving all kinds of different tasks within the engine, not just for friction, but a lot of heat rejection comes from it. So developing the Pure Plus products to be able to reject heat the best to keep the engine more healthy across all of its components has been a real high priority task for us. The competition of racing, obviously everything escalates. I think probably one of the most difficult things we have for our oils is the temperatures that we operate at. Normally your street cars will run around 200, 210 degrees. What we're going to race today is closer to 290 on the oil temp, which requires a whole lot more out of your oil. So Pennzoil has partnered with us, along with our engine provider, Roush Yates Engines, to test and develop all different sorts of additives, base oils, Pure Plus, to get the best product that can last for 500 miles at 290 degrees, which is pretty extreme condition compared to what kind of the everyday rider sees. But you still have to have great lubricity qualities at that point so that the engine doesn't basically eat itself at that temperature. You have to be able to handle the difference in all the different interfaces and tolerances as the engine heats up. So we'll run it. We'll start at 180, 190, but then heat up to 280, 290. So at that point, everything's changing. The size of the piston's changing, everything. So the oil has to be able to kind of keep up with that. And I think we found a great partner. We've been able to increase our temperature a significant amount. What that does for us is Aeroperformance. So it's kind of a weird situation where you're taking oil and turning it into Aeroperformance. Add more and more tape to the front of the car, which is how much air goes through our radiator and oil cooler system. So if we can cut down on the amount of air going through that, that's more air that goes over the car and makes downforce. Downforce makes our cars faster. So we're actually using the engine and the oil technologies to create aero performance to make the car faster. So it's kind of a more holistic approach to performance rather than just looking at what can we do with the engine to make it the best. You have to figure out how the engine and the oil can make the whole car the best. And that's at a track like Charlotte where we are today, where the speeds are up over 200 miles an hour. That's a key ingredient, is having the aero performance.
So you're sacrificing cooling to get better aerodynamics, but in sacrificing coolant, now the burden is placed on the oil because it's got to run at higher temperatures, 290 degrees, you said.
Absolutely. You know, the peak temperature for the oil in the engine is probably more like 240, 250, but we're willing to give up a little bit of horsepower and a little bit of performance out of the engine to get higher temperatures so that we can have better aero performance. And essentially we have a simulation program that tells us how much horsepower the aero performance is worth.
Yeah.
So it would take this much horsepower to make this much downforce for speed, and then you start figuring out how hot you want to run and where you need to be. As the tracks get smaller, the aero performance means less, so the engine performance becomes more important to us, and then we'll start to put more of a priority around the engine and the temperatures that it's operating at.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate your answering the questions and learning something new.
I mean, you nailed all the good questions.
They advance so rapidly, and the gains are just, you know, any little thing they can do to gain a little bit of horsepower, they do. Now, I say stock car racing. It's not stock like you go to the dealership and pick it up and it's stock like we think of, but it's still stock in the sense that they're issued tires from, say, for an example, they're issued tires from Goodyear Eagle. Their wheels, most all of them are aero racing wheels. The bumpers front and back, like all the Ford ones are the same, all the Toyota ones are the same, Chevy, etc. And then all of the engines for, say, example, Chevrolet come from Earnhardt Childress Racing, or ECR as they call it, or Toyota TRD, Toyota Racing Development. Ford gets theirs from Roush Yates. So in that sense, they all get the same block. It's all 5.8 liter, same type of cylinder head. It's all 2 valves per cylinder. But the advantage is, once they get those engines, they can do all kinds of things to the engines to increase horsepower. These cars go at over 200 miles an hour. That's incredibly fast. After 55 miles an hour, your fuel economy or the horsepower required, however you want to look at it, takes a lot more power to push that air. So they can't really do much in terms of aerodynamics because that's a given. Even the little cameras that they put on the car, the top 12 that are in the points lead, they have cameras that are sponsored by different groups, but everybody else has to have like a dummy camera so that their aerodynamics are the same, so that the leaders aren't put at a disadvantage. So in that way, they're stock, they're issued a certain way. So one of the things that they can do for an advantage, aside from increasing horsepower, is they can do things with their engine oil. The oil that's used in NASCAR is not your normal oil. This is oil that's specially formulated, specially done just for NASCAR. They use these special units. It's like a little cart trailer type device that preheats the oil to a temperature of 180 to 190 degrees before putting it into the car. They cycle it through with a drill and get oil pressure in all kinds of places. And then they have it on an electric heater until the guy says, "Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines." So the funny thing is, the way this race turned out is we were cheering, of course, for Joey Logano, car number 22. He's a Pennzoil sponsored driver. And instead of having higher oil temperatures to go extra fast, basically there was a crash and Joey got the short end of that. He had all this wind resistance and all of this drag and lack of cooling, but because he had Pure Plus technology, he is able to complete the race without overheating. I was listening in on the headset in the suite, and you could hear Joey talking back and forth between the crew chief and the spotter and whatnot. And one of the things that the crew chief and Joey were going back and forth a lot on was oil temperature. It's a really important thing, but because he had so much tape on the car to get it from being all bumpy and lumpy or whatever to being able to stay competitive, they blocked a lot of the cooling that's in the front of the car. The funny thing is where he hit is actually where a lot of the cooling would go through. As I was at the Penske facility, you could look at the front of the car and you could see where the openings are. where that big open grille would be on a normal Ford Fusion is all closed on a stock car. You can't have that much air flowing through the engine compartment or else you won't be able to go 200 miles an hour. So that's what I learned from the race. That's what I have to share with you about Pure Plus technology and how to get aero performance from your engine oil. If you like this video, be sure to click subscribe and tune in. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming from SEMA. I'm actually at SEMA right now, or just got back from it, depending on when this video got approved. But stay tuned, I got a lot of cool stuff in the works.
Bonus footage at the end.
Just move me out of your way.
No, you're good. I'm not moving you around. I'm just messing with you.
Wasted.
There's a lot of standardizing in NASCAR where you have to meet certain criteria, and that kind of levels the playing fields. You see these different attachments for Toyota, Chevy, and Ford. Those are the three manufacturers that are represented here. You see the stickers on them as well. But you've got different areas where people try to make it more or less high or low to give them an advantage. So you can see on the template where this one's got a lot of wear, you get a lot of different people changing stuff there for airflow. Whereas these are also really clean. So you've got the main thing, they call it the hammock. Just like the cage of the car, the roll cage in the inside of the car, they call that the greenhouse, because when it's sitting on the floor by itself, that's what it looks like. So this is a pit box, and you see that it's equipped with all kinds of different stuff, from tape to battery-powered tools to even sawzalls and mallets. When you get a car that's in an accident, gets a fender bender or something, has something that's hanging off, you can use these snap-on sawzalls and just take the rest of it off so that you don't have the aerodynamic drag, or if it's rubbing on the tire, whatever it is, you're able to take care of it. Now, if this isn't a BFH, I don't know what is, but these guys have to get stuff done fast. If it's bad enough, they can take it in the garage behind and work on it there. But otherwise, they can just beat it out here, get back on the track, and win a race.